The night my family turned their backs on me, I learned how fast love can change into control. My name is Noah. It's a quiet name, and I lived a quiet life. I never caused trouble. I never talked back. I never asked for much. Growing up in Arizona, our house always looked full of life. Family dinners, holiday photos, neighbors waving from across the street. People thought we were close. I thought so too, once. But inside our home, love had rules. My parents believed children should obey, not question. If you agreed, you were loved. If you stayed silent, you were accepted. If you had your own thoughts, you were a problem. My younger sister, Kayla, understood this early. She learned how to smile at the right time, say the right things, and stay on their good side. I was different. I didn't fight. I didn't rebel. I just didn't disappear enough. I worked hard in school. I got decent grades. I never asked my parents for money once I turned 18. I worked evenings at a clothing store and weekends at a cafe near campus. I paid for my own books, my own gas, my own phone. I believed being independent would make them respect me. Instead, it made them uncomfortable. They liked Kayla needing them. They didn't like me not needing them. The night everything broke was a Sunday. Dinner was quiet, too quiet. My dad kept tapping his fork on his plate. My mom avoided looking at me. Kayla stared at her phone like she wasn't even there. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. "We've been talking," he said. That sentence alone made my stomach tighten. My mom folded her hands on the table and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind people use when they already made a decision. "You're too independent," she said. "It creates tension." I laughed softly, thinking she was joking. "That's a bad thing?" No one laughed back. My dad leaned forward. "You don't fit with this family anymore." I felt like the room shrank. I asked what I did wrong. I asked calmly. I wasn't yelling. I just wanted an answer. Kayla finally looked up. She shrugged. "You're always acting like you're better than us." That hurt more than my parents' words. My mom said, "We think it's best if you move out." I reminded them I already planned to move after graduation. I said I only needed a few months. My dad shook his head. 2 weeks. That was all. They didn't ask if I had enough money. They didn't ask where I would go. They didn't ask how I felt. They had already replaced me in their lives. The next 2 weeks felt unreal. I packed my things while my family watched TV in the living room. My mom cooked dinner and didn't call my name. My dad passed me in the hallway like I was a guest who overstayed. On my last night, my mom left an envelope on my bed. Inside was a handwritten list: rent, food, utilities, things from years ago. At the bottom, she wrote, "What you owe us." I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the paper for a long time. Then I folded it neatly and left it behind. I moved into a tiny studio across town. Old carpet, thin walls, a window that barely opened. The first night, I cried so hard my chest hurt. The second night, I cried less. The third night, I didn't cry at all. Instead, I thought. I realized how much I had given them quietly, how much I had fixed without thanks, how often I stayed small to keep peace. I stopped calling them. I stopped checking their social media. I focused on work, savings, and learning things they never taught me. Weeks passed, then months. My family didn't notice my silence at first. But when things started going wrong, when bills piled up, when Kayla needed help, when my parents realized how much I used to handle without praise, they remembered me. By then, I was no longer the girl they pushed out. I was someone they underestimated. And that would become their biggest mistake. The first time my family called after cutting me off, I let the phone ring until it stopped. Seeing my mom's name on the screen made my heart jump, but I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, because I finally understood something. If they wanted me only when they needed me, then silence was the strongest answer I had. Life in my tiny studio was not easy. I had one chair, a small table, and a mattress on the floor. The pipes made noise at night, and the neighbor upstairs walked like he wore heavy boots. But it was mine. Every bill I paid was proof that I could stand alone. I took extra shifts. I worked mornings at the cafe and evenings at the store. Some days my feet hurt so bad I could barely stand. Still, I smiled at customers. I learned how to stay calm when things got busy. I learned how to listen, really listen. Those small skills mattered more than I knew. One afternoon, the cafe manager asked if I could help with inventory. I said yes. I noticed numbers didn't match. I fixed them. He noticed. A week later, he asked me to train a new hire, then another. Soon, I was helping with schedules, supply orders, and cash counts. No one told me to do it. I just did. That's how I always survived, by stepping in quietly. Meanwhile, my family started to crack. Kayla texted first. "Can you help Mom with her laptop? It won't turn on." I didn't reply. Then my dad called. Voicemail. "Just checking in." I deleted it. They weren't worried about me. They were annoyed by my absence. I heard things through relatives. My mom complained that the house felt disorganized. My dad missed deadlines. Kayla forgot to pay bills on time. They blamed each other. They never blamed themselves. One night, I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store. She asked how my family was doing. I smiled and said, "I wouldn't know." She looked surprised, then curious. That's when I realized something important. My family cared deeply about how they looked to others, and that gave me power. I didn't run back. I didn't explain myself. I didn't defend my name. I let silence do the work. At the cafe, a regular customer named Tom noticed how much responsibility I handled. He owned a small delivery business and needed help managing orders. He offered me a part-time role, flexible hours, better pay. I said yes. I learned more in 3 months than I had in years. Invoices, contracts, customer calls. I kept records clean. I caught mistakes before they became problems. One evening, while reviewing old emails for Tom, I realized something. These systems felt familiar. Too familiar. My parents' business had the same structure, same mistakes, same habits, and the same weaknesses. That's when an idea started to form. Not fast, not loud, but steady. I wasn't going to hurt them. I wasn't going to fight them. I was going to outgrow them. Because the truth was simple. They didn't push me out because I was weak. They pushed me out because they thought I would stay small. And I was done proving them right. The day I realized my family was struggling because I was gone, I stopped feeling sad and started feeling clear. I didn't hear it from them directly. I heard it the way you hear most real truths, through other people. A cousin mentioned my mom was stressed all the time now. An aunt said my dad missed deadlines and blamed his staff. Kayla complained online about being overwhelmed. They were finally living without the quiet support they never noticed. Meanwhile, my life was changing in small but real ways. Tom trusted me with more work. He let me handle client calls on my own. He asked my opinion before making decisions. For the first time, someone treated me like I mattered, not because I was family, but because I was capable. One evening, while cleaning out old files for Tom, I came across a familiar vendor name. My stomach tightened. It was one of my parents' main suppliers. I hadn't planned on touching anything connected to my family, but seeing that name reminded me of how deeply I knew their business. Every shortcut, every weak point, every lie they told themselves to stay comfortable. I didn't act right away. I waited. A few weeks later, Tom mentioned he wanted to expand. He needed reliable partners and someone to manage contracts. I helped him compare options. I didn't push, I just showed him facts. When my parents' supplier failed an audit, Tom chose another company. It was a clean decision, a legal decision, a smart decision. But it hurt my parents' business badly. I didn't celebrate, I didn't smile, I just kept working. Then my phone rang. My dad. I answered this time. He sounded tired, older. "Why didn't you tell us you were struggling?" he asked, like none of this was his fault. I stayed calm. "I told you not to come back." Silence. Then my mom took the phone. Her voice was softer than I remembered. "Families forgive. We can talk," she said. I almost laughed. They didn't want me back because they loved me. They wanted me back because they needed me. I told them I was busy and ended the call. That night, I opened a folder on my laptop labeled Receipts. Inside were emails I saved years ago, messages where my dad pushed tasks onto me without pay, notes where Kayla missed deadlines and blamed others, proof that I had been carrying more than they admitted. I didn't plan to post them. I didn't plan to threaten anyone, but I kept them safe, because truth is power when used quietly. My family started asking relatives about me. They wanted to know where I worked, who I knew, how I was doing. I said nothing. The less I spoke, the louder my absence became. Then, one afternoon, Tom looked at me and said, "You should run this side of the business." Just like that. No shouting, no drama, just trust. I went home that night and sat on my mattress, thinking about the girl who packed her life into one suitcase. She didn't know how strong she would become. My family thought they ended my future when they pushed me out. What they really did was free me. And they were about to understand the cost of that mistake. The moment my family tried to pull me back in, I knew they were afraid of losing control. It started slowly. Too slowly, to be honest. My mom sent a message that said, "We should talk like adults." My dad followed with, "Family comes first." Kayla didn't say anything at all. That silence told me everything. They weren't reaching out to heal. They were reaching out to regain what they lost. By then, my life looked different. I had moved out of the studio into a small one-bedroom. Nothing fancy, but clean, quiet, safe. I had savings. I had respect at work. I had a routine that belonged to me, not to anyone else. Tom trusted me completely. I managed clients, contracts, and staff schedules. When problems came up, people came to me first. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I solved things. That was my strength. One afternoon, Tom told me something that made my chest tighten. "My supplier dropped out last minute," he said they're closing down. I didn't need to ask which one. My parents' business was failing. I felt something strange then. Not joy, not guilt, just distance. Their problems were no longer mine. A few days later, my mom showed up at my work. She stood near the counter, looking around like she didn't belong. When she saw me, her face softened, like she was putting on an old mask. "You look well," she said. I nodded. "I am." She asked if we could talk. I agreed, but only in public. We sat at a small table. She talked about stress, about money, about how families should stick together. Then she said the truth without realizing it. "You need our help." There it was. I looked at her and said, "You told me to leave." She said, "We didn't mean forever." I smiled politely. I did. Her eyes changed. She saw it then. The control was gone. A week later, my dad sent an email. He attached documents. He wanted me to come back, a better title, better pay, more respect. Everything I had asked for before. I deleted it. I didn't need revenge that ruined them. I needed peace that protected me. Word spread through our town. People asked why I wasn't helping my family. Some said I was cold. Some said I was selfish. I didn't explain, because the truth doesn't need defense when you've lived it. That's when my family made their final mistake. They tried to tell others that I failed, that I couldn't survive on my own, that I came crawling back and was rejected. But they underestimated one thing. I had proof. Tom knew the truth. Clients knew the truth. Former coworkers knew the truth. And when asked, I spoke calmly, clearly, with facts. Not insults, not anger, facts. The story changed fast. Suddenly, my family wasn't the strong unit everyone admired. They were the ones who pushed out the daughter who kept everything running. Their image cracked, and once people see the truth, they don't forget it. I went home that night and slept deeply. No fear, no regret. The end was close, and this time, I wasn't afraid of it. The day my family finally stopped calling was the day I knew I had won without destroying myself. There was no big apology, no dramatic moment where they begged me to come back. Just silence. Real silence this time. The kind that means people have accepted what they can't control anymore. My parents' business closed quietly. No headlines, no public shame. Just a slow ending. Vendors moved on, clients found other options. The town stopped talking about them and started talking about something else. That's how most endings happen, not with noise, but with forgetting. Kayla moved away. I heard she blamed everyone but herself. My parents sold the house, the one with the neat yard and the blue door, the place where I learned that love with rules isn't love at all. They never asked me for help again. And that was enough. My life didn't turn into a movie. I didn't become rich overnight. I didn't stand on a stage and explain my pain. What I gained was better. I gained calm mornings. I gained work where my voice mattered. I gained a home where I could breathe. Tom made me a partner in the business, not because he felt sorry for me, but because I earned it. I signed my name on papers that actually protected me this time. I read every word. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about the girl who packed her life into a suitcase and left without begging. She didn't know how strong she was. She just knew she couldn't stay. My family thought cutting me off would teach me a lesson. It did. It taught me that strength doesn't need approval, that silence can be louder than shouting, that the best revenge is building a life no one can take from you. I didn't ruin them. I didn't expose them. I didn't chase closure. I walked away and let truth do the work. And in the end, that was the only ending I ever needed.